In October of 2023, I had an interview with Paul Yan, the creative director and co-studio head at Toys for Bob, the studio responsible for the Spyro Reignited trilogy, the remaster of the original 3 games. We talked all about Spyro, from development, reception, the community day we hosted, and even the fact that the game surpassed 10 million sales. During the interview, I asked what he felt was the secret sauce of Spyro. While explaining what he thought made a great Spyro game, he mentioned this.
Like Spyro is one of the first 3D games, first in a sense open world, non-linear type of game. And I think that the freedom to choose your path, the freedom to engage with conflict or not, I think that that's a big part of it as well. I think there's a lot of lessons that you could apply from modern day open world games that would be really interesting for Spyro.
With Paul Yan still leading the charge at Toys for Bob, it would seem that he's potentially interested in expanding and opening the environment up for more exploration for a brand new Spyro title. Additionally, this expansion would likely also affect Spyro's tools of movement, giving him more ways to explore and move through these larger worlds. We already have seen an example of this in Crash Team Rumble. Spyro was released as a playable character in December 2023, adding a brand new aerial dash to his movement kit. The timing is interesting because December 2023 is when the alleged prototype pitch was happening for a alleged brand new Spyro title. So new ways for Spyro to explore and traverse much bigger worlds may be what's on the table for this little purple dragon. But bigger and more open worlds may not be the only thing that we might be seeing in a brand new game. Now, I have talked about Spyro 4 extensively on this channel for many years now, and recently, through a wild state of events and lucky timing, I was able to basically confirm that Spyro 4 is in early development as of March 2024. If you're confused about that, or how I got there, or everything to do with that, don't worry, I will explain how I got there later on in the video. But beyond the game being in early development and potentially being much bigger, do we know anything else? Well, with some basic deductions, we can definitely get an idea as to what the next game might be like. Here are 10 things we think we know about Spyro 4. Fair warning, because the game is in early development, things are very much subject to change, so keep that in mind as you watch this video. So, you've already heard about the game likely being much bigger, so let's move on to the next point. Toys for Bob is leading development. So right off the hop, I think we can get the obvious one out of the way. Toys for Bob, as a newly found indie company, is going to be leading the way on a brand new Spyro 4. In the past, I suggested that it was possible that Beanox could have been taking the lead on a brand new title. However, recent evidence and reports would suggest that Toys for Bob is actually going to be the team who's currently tackling the new game. To add a bit more gasoline to the evidence fire, one of Toys for Bob's design directors, Toby Shad, mentions on his LinkedIn profile that they are currently working on a brand new game. And the timing lines up perfectly with what I had said in my report in terms of when development started. Now, remember Toby, because we're going to bring him up later. Now, I'm not saying Beanox doesn't have a hand in the development. They have assisted Toys for Bob many times in the past, like helping making Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time with their inverted mode. But the concept of Beanox helping out is purely my speculative guess. At the moment, it would seem though that Toys for Bob is at least the team that is leading the development. Number 3. Spyro's look will likely be unchanged. Now, while this new Spyro title will have a new art team backing it in comparison to the original, I don't think that means we're going to be seeing Spyro's design completely overhauled. At least not the same level as Crash Bandicoot, from Crash Bandicoot Insane to It's About Time. And there's a couple of reasons why. First off, Spyro was recently brought into Crash Team Rumble, along with his fantastic sweetheart, Allura. Now notice how Spyro's design looks completely unchanged, but Allura's is? If Spyro's look was going to be completely overhauled, I would think that we would have likely seen it here. Additionally, Spyro's look was already significantly overhauled between the OG trilogy and Reignited's, so it would be kind of odd for Toys for Bob to completely change Spyro's look again, especially since Reignited's Spyro design was so well received by many. There might be small changes, as there have been recent designs and Easter eggs that show yellow spikes going down Spyro's back, but Spyro's look should mostly stay the same. The only reason that I see that might cause some kind of significant change in terms of design is if they decide to make Spyro slightly older, in which case some of his features could be different due to age. Again, I don't expect a complete overhaul even if this were to happen, but it would be the only reason as to why I think he would receive such a significant change to his design. Number 4, it'll be developed in Unreal Engine 5. Now, I mentioned this in a previous video, so I'm not going to dwell on this for too long, but Spyro 4, as long as everything continues to go to plan, will be made in Epic's newest release of their engine, Unreal Engine 5. This is evidenced by the prototyping that Toys for Bob revealed to be doing in December 2023, showing the team tinkering around in Unreal Engine 5 on Twitter. A few upgrades this engine boasts is that it allows for significantly more polygons and the use of a new revolutionary lighting tool called Lumen. Now, if you have no interest in tech speak, I'll just say it like this. Unreal Engine 5 will give Toys for Bob the tools to make Spyro look better than ever before. Number 5, full-scale development started between December 2023 and January 2024. Remember Toby? Well, according to his LinkedIn profile, the unannounced project that I'm strongly assuming is obviously Spyro 4 started in and around December 2023. Now, my previous report said that development of Spyro 4 started in and around January 2024. While some would say, Canadian guy was wrong, I was only a month off, and not to mention, we also know that the post showing the team was playing around with the Unreal Engine 5 was also in December 2023. So, in my opinion, this kind of suggests that a prototype pitch was put together in and around December 2023, and the project likely entered full-scale development in and around January 2024. And I really feel weird explaining this because I feel like if the game did start full-scale development in December 2023 and I said it started in January 2024, being a month off, I really am hard-pressed to think that that makes me wrong because I was off by a month, even though I just said a ballpark number. So it blows my mind that people were saying that when Toby's post came out, it debunked my information. That was... And again, I will be explaining more about the Spyro 4 report that I'm referring to later on in the video. Point number 6. Kena Bridge of Spirits may be an influence. During that same interview I had with Paul Yan back in October 2023, we also spoke, hypothetically, about Spyro 4. When I asked him directly about it, this was his response.
But I agree with you. I agree that Spyro deserves a new game. And it's pretty clear there's an audience for it. We've got some interesting times ahead for Toys for Bob and for Activision in a greater sense. We'll see. But I guess I'll flip it back over to you.
Oh.
Hypothetically, if someone were to embark on making that new game, what are some other games that you'd be looking at?
Again, I was caught off guard with this, but if you watched that video, you would know that I said Okami. Following my answer, Paul continued with this.
You mentioned that. It reminds me of this game, Kena Bridge of Spirits, has some similar blossoming moments as well.
Yeah, Kena would be another great example because it looks like it's straight out of a Pixar film, and just like Spyro. So, if there was a spread table, I think Okami, Kena, and those would be really good examples to look at. Hypothetically. Now, when I heard this made me jump in my seat because Kena Bridge of Spirits was a game that was recently released and made in the Unreal Engine, and it blew everybody's mind. In fact, fans in the past, including myself, have made posts on social media saying that Kena Bridge of Spirits would be a fantastic influence for a brand new Spyro 4. In fact, after I tweeted this a few months later, Ember Labs, the company that made Kena Bridge of Spirits, liked the tweet. So when Paul said this, it made me wonder if he was taking note of what fans were saying, or if he was simply inspired just like us. So it's possible that Kena Bridge of Spirits may be one of many influences on Spyro 4's development, which to me is an absolute win. Number 7 will most likely be a true sequel to the original trilogy. So basically following the exact route of Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time. But why do I think this? Well, back in 2020, Paul did a GDC talk about Toys for Bob's design philosophies towards Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. In a previous video, I sat down and ran Spyro through the exact same paces and tests that Toys for Bob did, using the same methodology and measurements that they did to try to find a similar conclusion. What I was basically able to determine was that this new Spyro title will very likely be a sequel to the original 3 games. I was also able to determine what Toys for Bob's design pillars might be through another interview with Paul Yan. If you guys want to check out these videos, I'll make sure I'll link them in the comment section below. Number 8, new playable characters. Now, one of the things we might see come back in Spyro is more side playable characters. This was originally introduced in Spyro 3, Year of the Dragon, as a way to diversify Spyro's gameplay. We were introduced to a number of new characters. The reason why I believe that we could be seeing new playable characters is because of a very cute goat, fawn. Alora's redesign was one of my personal highlights in Spyro Reignited, and I'm not alone on that. She became a massive fan favorite very quickly in terms of the new designs. However, in Spyro's season of Crash Team Rumble, while Spyro came onto the scene with the exact same model that he had in Spyro Reignited, Alora showed up with a completely new model. Now, every character that came to Crash Team Rumble had the exact same model as they did in Crash Bandicoot 4 or Spyro Reignited. However, Alora was the very first one to have a completely brand new model, which doesn't make sense because why would you make a new model for Alora when the first one was so good and well loved by many fans? In my opinion, one of the things Toys for Bob might be exploring for Spyro 4 is a playable Alora, and the model that was made was done with Spyro's prototype in mind, along with being used in Crash Team Rumble. Two birds, one proverbial, we'll get it. Two birds, one proverbial. I can say the word. Two birds, one proverbial. Two birds, one proverbial developer's stone. There, we got it. Additionally, Crash Bandicoot 4 tapped into all of our nostalgia by making new playable side characters. And those side characters were familiar faces that we've never got to play before, at least in the way of a platformer, like Dingodile, Cortex, and even an alternative version of Tana. Because of that, I think we could not only see a playable Alora, but perhaps other characters as well, like Hunter. Number 9, skins. This next one is not really based on significant evidence, but simply based on how obvious and awesome it would be for Spyro 4. But it's skins. Skins was a feature that showed up in both Crash Team Racing, Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time, and Crash Team Rumble. But Crash Team Rumble and Crash Team Racing featured Spyro as a playable character, and they decked him out with some awesome looking attire. Now, while Spyro in the Reignited trilogy did not have any skins, it didn't stop the modding community from adding them in. Sir Spyro from Crash Team Rumble, for example, is a favorite of mine. So looking at Crash Bandicoot 4 and the skins already brought in for Spyro in other games, it would be an obvious miss if they didn't include them. So honestly, I think I can say Spyro 4 will most likely include skins. And number 10, don't expect a release date till 2025 or later. That was a mouthful. Now, I'm going to be breaking your heart a little bit, but this is just a very simple deduction. If development for Spyro 4 started at the very end of 2023 or the very beginning of 2024, there is no way we are going to be getting our hands on this game this year. In fact, if the game were to release this year, I would be very hesitant in its quality. Toys for Bob typically is a very aggressive studio when it comes to development time, however, averaging at about 2 years per project. Go and take a look. You can see all the games that they released. They all will release in around 2 or 3 years, which is a very, very aggressive timeline. So we could see something come out during the Christmas season of 2025. But that aggressive timeline was also under the push and guise of Activision, who is known for aggressive timelines as a whole. Will Toys for Bob slow down and take their time, or will they keep the pace? Only time will tell. However, 2024 being the year of the dragon, I believe it's too hard to pass up in terms of marketing. So I do think we could see some kind of a small announcement or reveal sometime this year. I don't know when, but maybe sometime this year. But again, that's all purely speculative. Now, what about that information and confirmation that Spyro 4 is in development in the first place? Well, you can check out my full extensive report here, where I break all of that down and how I got all that information. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye-bye!